Hello, my name is Regina Barrett, and I'm a Technology Integration Specialist with the Kentucky Department of Education. This video will introduce you to Google Drive and its suite of apps, including Docs, Sheets, Slides, Forms, and Sites. For more in-depth training resources, Google has created its own Learning Center available at https://gsuite.google.com/training. For a support network of educators across the state using Google in their classrooms, engage with Google's Educators Group of Kentucky on Twitter or Facebook using their handle at GEG or visit their website for more information. Let's get started. Log into Google using your school login information in order to access G Suite and all of its functionality. You may access it through any browser, but for today's session I am using Google Chrome. Some apps require the use of Chrome for functionality, so if you plan to use Google regularly, it may be a good habit to use Chrome for that. The app launcher is located in the right corner of your screen, and you can access the apps that you regularly use from Google as well as additional ones that are available to you. We're going to start in Drive. Google Drive is your own section of the cloud to store documents. You may share documents stored in your Drive with others, but you maintain ownership of the document. Google Drive is browser-based, so it does not require additional programs to be installed on your computer, and there are free apps for mobile devices. This makes it very easy to be able to work on Google Documents on whatever device you have available. Drive also allows you to share one or more items with people to create a collaborative experience. Here you can see an example of my Drive. I have things organized in folders, and then I also have additional documents down here. I can see the owner of a document available here. I can also choose to share this document with somebody, and I have two different ways to do that. If I select the document, as example here, I can come up to my ribbon across the top, and I can click the Share button. I can add people directly here, or I can choose to just get a link. What this link allows me to do is be able to email this link to whomever needs to be able to access it. But keep in mind, if that link gets forwarded, whomever ends up with the link will also have the same rights. Your environment may have it set to where only people inside of your department, so for example, the Kentucky Department of Education, are allowed to open the link. So even if the link gets forwarded outside of the department, nobody outside would be able to access it. You can instead choose to just invite particular people to your document. This allows you to be able to better control who has access. You have a variety of options by right-clicking on a document. You can choose to rename it, move it, share it from here as well, preview it, or you can also manage your versions from here. So if you have a document you've been working on for quite a while, you can manage versions straight from here. If you need to, you can download or make a copy as well. If someone has shared a document with you, you will find that located under Shared with Me from the left-hand side navigation. You can see any documents that have been shared with you listed here. The owner is listed over here on the right-hand side, and the original share date as well. If it's an item that you will use regularly, you can choose to right-click on that and add a shortcut to your Drive. You can also choose to add it to a workspace. If you add a shortcut to your Drive, it will ask you where you want to place that, making it easier to be able to get to it. Google Drive allows you to create documents that are inherent to Google, such as Google Docs, Google Sheets, and Google Slides, Google's version of Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. Or you can also choose to upload a file that already exists, even if it is in a Microsoft format, such as Excel. Take this '09 Pet Pharma sales, for example. This was originally an Excel sheet. I can open it up and preview it if I want, or I can edit it without having to change it into a Google Sheet. I can select the Open with Google Sheets button at the top, and it allows me to open and edit this document, saving as I go. If I have a lot of documents to upload and they are in a single folder, I can also come up to the New button in the top left and upload an entire folder at a time. This is also where you would come to add a new folder if you wanted to organize content that was already in your Google Drive. If your district has enabled shared drives, this allows you to create a space that is shared among multiple people. The documents in here don't belong to one particular person, but instead belong to the entire group. You can have multiple people inside of the group, and you can have multiple titles as well. To create a new shared drive, right-click on Shared Drive, and you have the option to create one from there. Documents that are placed in a shared drive do not then show up under Shared with Me. Those files would then be found under the shared drive. To create a new document, go up to the New button in the top left corner and choose what type of document you want to create. If you need to create a Word document, that is Google Docs. If you need to create a spreadsheet, that is Google Sheets. If you need to create a presentation, you would use Google Slides. Or you can choose more and choose a variety of other apps, including Google Forms, Google Sites, Google Drawings. Let's take a closer look at Google Docs. We're going to start with this document, which used to be a Word document. We're going to open it with Google Docs and do some editing. You have your ribbon of options across the top and additional options underneath your file tabs. If you are familiar with Microsoft Word, many of the same options are available here inside of Google as well. From the File tab, you have some additional options. If you need to download the document, you have many choices as to how you can download the document. If this was originally created as a Google Doc, you can choose to download it as a Microsoft Word, so if you needed to send it to somebody that doesn't use Google, or you can download it as a PDF. You can also get to your version history, or if it's a document that was originally a Word document, you can choose to save it as a new document that is a Google Doc instead. Now this saves it as an additional document, so any changes made to the original file would not be reflected in your new document. An example of the new file saved as a Google Doc is shown here in my drive. You can use the icons to the left of the file name as a quick reference as to what kind of document it is. If you want to invite somebody to edit the document with you, you can click the Share button in the top left corner and invite people directly to the document. When someone is editing a document with you, you will see their icon, or if they have not logged in and you have allowed for anonymous editing, you will see their anonymous icon up here. Notice what color they are, and this will allow you to be able to locate that same color cursor somewhere in the document wherever they're working. If you hover over them, it will give you their name, either their anonymous symbol name, or if they are logged in, it will give you their login name. They can see any changes that you make real time. You can also see any changes that they make real time. You can always go back through version history if somebody makes a change that you don't wish to keep. To access your version history, go up to File, go to Version History, see Version History. Click on any version to view that, or choose to restore it. As you're going through the document creation process, you may come across a version that you wish to identify as a main version. You can choose from the version history, choose the ellipses next to that particular version, and name that version. This can be very beneficial if a document will take a long time to edit and will require many edits. This will allow you to be able to identify the major points within the document's life cycle. Let's move on to Google Sheets. When creating a new file, you can come up and rename your file. With Google Sheets, you start with one sheet. You can add additional sheets down at the bottom. You can use the All Sheets button to toggle between any of the sheets, even if they have been hidden. You can choose to hide a sheet, protect it. If you like to color code items, you can also choose to color code it. You can copy a sheet either to a new spreadsheet or an existing one, or you can duplicate the sheet inside of this workbook. Your column headers have functionality via the drop-down, so it allows you to be able to insert columns either left or right, delete, hide, or resize columns, as well as, if you have data in your worksheet, be able to sort by that particular sheet. You can also use this to be able to protect ranges of data if you don't wish for somebody to change it. When inserting a formula, if you are unsure of the context, it may be best to go up to the Insert tab and go down to the Function section. This gives you all functions available. It will then give you detailed information of what you need to include in the function, and it will highlight for you where you are at. Each cell identified or range of cells identified in your formula will be given a color code. Let's go to a sheet that has data. This sheet has filters turned on. I have a visual indicator that allows me to be able to tell. It will give a what's often called a slicer icon next to the column header that I can then click on and choose to filter either by color, sort by color, or filter by values. When filtering by values, you would deselect or uncheck the ones you do not wish to include in the filter. To clear the filter, go back up to the column header and say Select All. If you instead clear it, you will end up filtering out all of your data. To turn the filters back off, or to turn them on a spreadsheet that does not currently have them on, you go up to Data, and you create a filter. Just make sure that you have a cell somewhere in your data already selected. You can also insert charts, images, and drawings into an Excel sheet. And just like with Google Docs, you can share and co-author with anybody that you have sent the link to or invited to your spreadsheet. Let's move on to Google Slides. Google Slides allows you to create presentations. You have themes, just as in PowerPoint. You can add slides, either by right-clicking or going to the Insert tab. You can add slide numbers from the Insert tab as well. From the Slide tab, you can choose to add a new slide, duplicate a slide, skip slides. So if you have a large presentation and you only wish to present a portion of it, you can choose to skip certain slides in that, or you can move your slides around. From the Insert tab, you have a variety of options to be able to insert content into your slides. You can choose to insert images either from your computer, from your Google Drive, your Google Photos, or you can search the web if you don't already have a photo. You can also insert audio, video, shapes, tables, charts, and more. Transitions are available from the ribbon and can be applied to a single or all slides. Options available underneath the Tools tab include spell check, dictionary, voice type speaker notes, and accessibility settings. When you are ready to present, that is located under the View tab on your ribbon. It takes you to full screen where you can move through your presentation. Google Forms, available from the new tab under More, allows you to be able to send out a form and collect data in a very usable, functional format. You can add a form title and a form description. Then you can add additional questions to your form. You have many question types. If you choose File Upload, those files will be uploaded to a folder inside of your Google Drive. Be careful about file upload, as people can choose to upload a variety of types of files. So you want to be sure that you trust those who you are sending the form to. You can allow for only specific types of files, which I highly recommend. So if you are expecting a PDF or a document form, I suggest that you select those. You can also set the maximum number of files submitted and the maximum file size. Please note that this question type may or may not be available in your district. It depends on many factors. You can always check with your district tech if you are unsure. You can choose whether or not to make a question required. You can also choose to delete a question or duplicate a question. If your question needs additional description, you can choose the vertical ellipses and choose to show a description as well. To add additional questions, choose Add Question from the toolbar at the right. You can also import questions. If you've already created a form that you like a question or two from, you can choose to import that from a form that's already been created. You can choose to just add a title or description. You can add an image, add a video, or add sections. Your sections are like pages grouped together of questions. To add additional content, be sure that you have selected the item that you want to appear immediately before your new content that you are adding. You can see which item you have selected based on the blue bar to the left of the item. If you insert a question that Google believes that it knows some of the suggested choice columns for it, it will present suggestions underneath of your question. So for example, if I ask a question regarding days of the week, it's going to recognize that phrase and allow me to either select them one by one and add them to my responses, or I can choose Add All. If there is one that I don't want or want to change, I can click inside of it, or I can choose to delete it. I can preview my form at any time. There is a ribbon across the top right of my window, and one of them is Preview. This opens a new tab and allows me to be able to see what my form looks like to the respondents. If you have required questions, you will need to answer those if you have multiple sections before submitting. You can also submit your form to have test data. If you have multiple sections, you'll notice this is section 1, and then section 2 and subsequent sections will be additional pages. The respondents will have to click the next button in order to get to additional sections. The form is not submitted until the respondent clicks the Submit button. When you are done previewing, you may close this tab and go back to the previous tab. You will now notice that I have a 1 next to responses. This is because I actually submitted my preview response. To view responses at any time, open your form back up and come to the Responses tab. This will give you a summary view of your responses. You can also choose to look at it per question or look at an individual's complete response. You can print or delete any responses from here as well. If you wish to put all of these into a sheet, you can create a spreadsheet that will allow you to be able to view the responses as they are submitted in a spreadsheet instead of in the summary form. If you have already created a sheet, you can select Existing Sheet instead, and it will allow you to browse for that sheet. when you initially link it, it will take you then in a new tab to that spreadsheet. As forms are submitted, you will see each question as a column with the question listed as the column header, and then each response will get a timestamp of when that response was submitted. If at any point you are working inside of your form and you want to open the spreadsheet, you can click this button to view your responses in the sheet that you have linked. You can choose a theme. You also have some additional options in the settings gear. These additional options allow you to, for example, collect responses, automatically send an email with the person's responses to them as soon as they submit. You can choose to limit the number of responses, though this will require the respondent to sign into Google. Your district may or may not have restrictions set in place to allow you to restrict it to just your district. You can also choose to allow them to edit after submit or see a summary chart and text responses. You can choose to show a progress bar. This is especially helpful if you're utilizing this as a quiz or if there are many different sections to be able to answer. That way the respondent knows where they're at as far as progress towards submission. You can also choose to shuffle question order. This can especially be beneficial if you are using this as a quiz. You can also customize the message that the respondent gets after they have hit the submit button. If you wish to make this a quiz, you have a bunch of additional options as well. If your students are using Chromebooks, you can turn on what's called locked mode, which does not allow for them to open up additional tabs or other applications while taking the quiz. But those students must be utilizing a school-managed Chromebook in order for this to be available. So if you are unsure, you may wish to ask your district tech if this is an option. You can also choose when you want the grade to be released and additional options down here as well. If you have chosen to make this a quiz, you have an answer key and point values. These are available to change whenever you click onto a question. If you have additional people that need to be able to see the responses, or additional people that you wish to be able to help add questions, you can come up to the vertical ellipses next to the send button and add collaborators. Please remember that these people are not only able to add and edit or delete questions from your form, but they are also able to see all specific responses that are submitted. So this is not how you would want to send a quiz to a student. If you wish to make a copy of a form, you can also make a copy from this menu as well. When you are ready to send your form, hit the send button and it will give you several different options. The first one is send via email. So you can email it directly to certain recipients and you can choose to include that form directly in the body of the email. Otherwise, if you do not check this, it will send them a link to the form to fill out instead in their browser. You can also switch over and choose to send it via a link. You can copy either the long link or you can choose to shorten the URL and copy the shortened URL instead. The third option available is an embedded HTML link. So if you have a Google site that you wish to embed this in, you can copy this and embed it in your site as well. As soon as you've copied the method of which you wish to send it, you can close that. Remember to preview your form one final time before you send it out. The last item we will cover today is Google Sites. You must be using Google Chrome browser in order to be able to access what is called the new Google site, which is what you're looking at here in this demonstration. This is a really clean looking site page. You would add your title here. The first time that you visit, it's going to give you all different kinds of pointers and tips and tricks. To add content to your site, choose from the Insert tab what you wish. If you have a form that you have copied the embedded HTML form from, you would use the embed. And if it's an embed code, you want to make sure that you have selected embed code. It's going to give you a preview. and then you can insert it and adjust your contents to fit. You can continue adding content and information. You can add additional pages. You can set themes. You can choose to share with others. This is especially helpful if you have multiple people who need to collaborate on the site together. You can also preview what your site looks like to your end users, and you can preview it not only for desktop, but also for mobile and tablet. Google Sites will automatically readjust and resize based on the device on which it is being viewed. So this allows you to be able to experience it as your viewers would experience it. When you are ready to publish your site, come to the publish, and you can change your view settings as well. If your web address is taken, so for example, if you are utilizing a generic site name that has already been used, you will get an error here and it will tell you that you'll need to pick a new name. You can then, from the view dropdown, either review changes and publish if you've made additional changes since you initially published, or you can view your published site. This is the URL you would want to share with anybody who needs to consume your site, not anybody that would need to edit. Thank you for your time today. Stay safe.